Hello and welcome to the Uncensored match build-up show. It's me, it's Dutton, it's Shanley for this one, and it is Liverpool versus Chelsea. Another just ridiculously huge game, and on paper, Tom, the hardest game left in the Premier League this season.
I'm really nervous about this.
Yeah.
Just purely because it's Chelsea and we've got previous there, and yeah, on paper it's the hardest game, and I think it's going to probably prove to be. They've got some real quality in that team, and you can never take this team for granted. I know obviously that they've not been the best this season, all the stuff going on about the inner turmoil in terms of the squad not liking the manager, blah, 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 and not doing what he wants to do. But they're going to be up for this, just as they should be, because this is a chance for them to basically knock us down a peg again and say, you're not winning the title and it's because of us. And that really hurt last time they did it. I just hope we've grown from that situation and we've become a stronger team mentally, and I think we will beat them.
So Tom, are you actually, I know the answer to this, but I'm just doing this for shits and giggles. Are you over 13-14 yet?
No, nowhere near. I still can't think about that game, and I still hate the fact that they did that to us and they have that over us, and I really want this to be a marker to just be like, we can forget about that now because we've done it, and we've done it with just in a better circumstance. This isn't a flash in the pan thing like it was then. This is a moment that we've been building towards, and it's going to carry on being built towards. So
I think that's right. And Ross, I think I remember doing a video a few months ago on 13-14, and I'm not over it. Those scars were deep. But this, as Tom says, is a chance to lay those ghosts to rest almost, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the major difference is it's a mental block for us as fans, because obviously we were there and we were part of it, but the majority of this team weren't, and it won't be on their minds at all. You know, obviously Henderson, maybe Lallana, people that are in and around that squad with 13-14, the rest of them have shown this season that they're not fazed by things like that.
Do you know the one player who played in that game?
Yeah, Mo Salah.
Mo Salah is the one player who played in that game, yeah, because obviously Henderson was suspended and stuff, so Mo Salah's the only one.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the circumstances as well. Obviously, it still gets thrown at us now, but obviously, the slipping and stuff, it still hurts to watch, and it's thrown at us left, right and centre.
He's our hero.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'm watching your hero go down like that.
But then again, we were talking this morning outside, we're so much better defensively than we were 13-14. It's completely different. It's hard to eradicate that from your memory, but I think you have to realise that we're not that team anymore. And that was the downfall, not just that game, that was the downfall of that season for the majority of it. We go and score 5 goals and whatever, but I go back to Paul interviewing Klopp at the beginning of pre-season and him saying, attack wins your games, defence wins your titles. And that's what we're starting to prove. We still only lost 1 game in the season. I know Chelsea beat us in the League Cup. But again, we had a quick look the other week, and the back five was, Moreno, Lovren, Matip, and Klein, and Mignolet in goal. We haven't got that anymore. We've got a solid base, and we've got options as well now. Chelsea will have a point to prove, because not for that, they're in the top 4, scrap as well, and they're desperate for it. The only advantage I think we've got is they've played so much this week already. We've had an extra couple of days rest, where they've played West Ham and Prague in the space of 4 days. We played 1 this week so far, and we had more rest and stuff. I think we spoke about it. We took our foot off the gas a little bit maybe, and we took Salah off, and we can rest some more players. So that's good, and we've got options in midfield now as well. Gini had a rest. Kate is on form. You're the opposition manager. How are you supposed to set up for that?
You've done an incredible job of talking about every point on the agenda there, Ross. I don't really know how to follow that. I've got nothing else to ask. He's covered literally every question in one hit. It's normally me that does that to Paul. It's incredibly difficult when someone does that. So Tom, one thing that Ross didn't delve too deep into was the midfield. Gini was rested midweek against Porto. Henderson obviously comes in with Naby Keita into that side. How are you thinking the midfield would line up in this game?
It's weird, because in the game where we lost in the Cup, I think Fabinho played as that one. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that. And he just didn't get to grips with the role, and he was getting bypassed so much. But I think now he's learnt that role. He knows, even the other players know his role, so they cover him a bit more. And I think it'll be a lot more solid. And I think we'll stick with the 4-3-3, 1 at the base and 2 up there, because you look at just how effective it was against Porto and other teams in the season, but just how high we got to press and the way we forced them back and rushed them into hitting the ball long. And we have the defence, as Ross says, who can just recycle play like that. If they're hitting the ball long, yes, they have good target man in Giroud, maybe Higuain, possibly, but I fancy whoever. I fancy Virgil van Dijk and either Matip or Lovren, whoever it is who comes in. I fancy them two to mop it up. I fancy our wings to cover that, whether that is Mane and Salah or the fullbacks themselves. And I think if we can get that press up and hardy their midfield, make them not comfortable at any point, get Jorginho on the back foot and stuff like that, I really, really feel like we'll win on the day. I
must admit, one of the things that I've enjoyed reading over the last couple of months is those little excerpts of interviews with Pep Lijnders, Ross, and he talks tactically about the midfield and how good play down the centre of the field sets up good wing play. Yeah. And I think that's what we've seen with the midfield that Klopp's been selecting over the last few weeks, isn't it? It's been talked about as the Brexit midfield a lot of times and stuff like that, but ultimately us being compact in the centre of the park, winning the ball back there has allowed us to spray the ball quickly to the fullbacks and then them get on the front foot. Now Andy Robertson, I believe, has got 9 assists in the Premier League. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think it's 7 assists in the Premier League. So I think it's 16 between. That might not be all Premier League. I might have mixed a bit of Champions League in there, but I do think that is Premier League. So it's for me, the game is won and lost on how the fullbacks perform. Andy Robertson missed the last game because of suspension against Porto. So we last played on Friday night. He's had a 9-day break until this Chelsea game. We played a majority of the time down the right-hand side with Trent against Porto. I expect we'll flip back Robertson to come back into the side, and Robbo will be the driving force to spare the lads on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he watched the Porto game on a treadmill because he needs to run, doesn't he? Again, we come back to the fresh legs and stuff and having options. We expect Trent to play as well. We were talking before about the midfield, and you said the Brexit midfield. Everyone always says, the lack of creativity that we don't have with that, but then they allow Robertson and Trent to bomb forward, which is great. Obviously, I've gone for Fabinho, but he's proven the past couple of weeks how good he is. But I think whoever we put in midfield now allows the support to kind of drop in. We're coming towards the business end of the season, and people kind of developing their roles and knowing the roles. Even like up to this point with Keita now, you could probably make a case for him going in there because he knows positioning where he should be when someone bombs forward. But Robertson and Trent are our attacking threat.
That's it. And then add into that a Mo Salah who looks like he's back in form, Tom.
We're starting to click all over the pitch. No matter, we've talked about having so many angles of attack, so many ways we can break down the team, and it's so nice to now pretty much have everything that we need at our disposal. You've got these attacking midfielders who can get up, but also can get back. We've seen that. You've got these fullbacks who've been doing it all season long, whipping balls in from deep. You can't get close to that, and especially if they're overlapping, that frees up the wingers. We've seen so many times on the Stats and Tactics show where on that right-hand side especially, Trent's occupying the fullback, and it gives Mo Salah so much space to create and drive at defenders. And what are you meant to do when Mo Salah's picked up a bit of speed? You're not stopping him unless you foul him. We'll speak about Hazard later, but I think they have one man in there who can do that in Hazard. We have Mo Salah, we have Mane, we have Bobby Firmino, we have whoever comes in. If it's Keita, he can drive at people and beat 2 or 3 men and then free up so much space for everyone. So Chelsea are going to have to be very, very worried at just how many things they have to keep an eye on. And we've seen so many times this season, when teams do that, they often overlook an aspect of play, and Klopp exploits that.
It's exactly right. And one of the things that I'll be interested to see when we go into this game is how Chelsea set up tactically against us. I think the best. Well, no one's had really much success at Anfield. Obviously, you mentioned, Ross, that they won in the League Cup earlier on, but you also mentioned part of the reasons why. And Liverpool have been superb at Anfield over recent times. It's high 30s, I think, since we've lost a game at Anfield. And I think we've drawn 2 games, and I think we've won 16. No, we've won 14, apologies, and drawn 2 this season so far at Anfield in the league. So we've been absolutely superb, averaging way over 2 points per game at Anfield. And will Chelsea sit back, do you feel, and look to use Hazard maybe in that number 9 role that we've seen him in sometimes, looking to hold the ball up with his particular skill set, or will he play on the wing and give us a little bit of danger on the counter-attack? Because, listen, Hazard, for all the bluster, and Liverpool fans online always talk about he's not as good as Mo Salah, and I think that's fair. But he's a great player regardless, and he's a player that is massively dangerous to Liverpool and always seems to do it against us.
Yeah, I watched him on Monday as well. He was unplayable, and I was like, fine. And then it's like, oh no, we're playing you this weekend. It's like, it's a really bad time for him to come in. I know they're playing Slavia Prague tonight. Whether he plays a part in that, I don't know. I imagine he'll be rested. But they've got other outlets, like you say, there's only Hazard. Williams pretty decent as well. I'm a fan of his. They've got pace.
Pedro, if he's to play.
They've got pace on the counter and stuff, so they are pretty dangerous. But then I think they go for the counter, but then they've got options as well. So like you're thinking of a Giroud or maybe Higuain, where they can lump the ball up and hold the ball up for Hazard to make runs in behind. You know, they're pretty dangerous as well, but if they're going to play balls up to the top, I'm pretty confident Van Dijk's going to take care of it, because it's food and drink to him, isn't it? Which is the massive difference again before about having defence. I'm just not cocky, but more confident than I have been in previous years playing Chelsea, that, you know, we can contain them sufficiently more than we have done in previous years.
That ball over the top, sorry Chris, when they're lumping it long, it's not just the centre-backs who deal with that either. It's Fabinho who drops in, and we've got so good at knowing which player should be challenging that, so good at that communication that, okay, if the ball isn't kicked long enough, Fabinho deals with it. He's just as tall as the other guys, and we'll speak later about who we put in centre-back. I might change my mind because of this, what I've formulated now, but it's genuinely a case of pick your poison. You're not getting through pretty much any of the time. The amount of times that we win aerial duels, we kind of negate their attack in that form. So I think they've got to go down the wings. There's no chance you're holding the ball up.
It begs the question then, who are the centre-backs that you're playing in this game, Tom? Because my initial thought is I'd be expecting them to play Hazard up top, because I just don't see that Giroud and Higuain get the better of those two centre-halves, whichever two you pick. But if Liverpool were to play Dejan Lovren over Joel Matip again, I fancy that Hazard will think, I can get something from this game.
But then the only problem with...
Or Joel, to be fair.
Well, and that's what I mean. They're going to sit him on not Virgil van Dijk, because Van Dijk will have him on toast all day. But then that's the big issue. If you're looking for someone to win balls in the air, it's Joel Matip, because his win percentage on them, like we do the starting 11, his win percentage on the aerial duels is ridiculous. It's better than Van Dijk's.
It's in like the 70s, 76, something like that, was it, before last game?
It's silly. It's absolutely silly. But then if Hazard's got the ball, it's one of them. We're going to have to double up on him. He's good enough to beat either of them defenders. Virgil van Dijk hasn't been dribbled past since Sané in an international
I think
game,
they might
so
aim for Trent, to be honest. Not that I think if he's got a weakness, sometimes it's defensively he can get beat, but then again he's 20 years old. He's come up against some of the best wingers in the world. But Hazard likes to go in on out wide and then cut in. And you said Keita before. Hazard can dribble past 3-4 players, and sometimes you have to just concede, like, it's not that the wear shit. It's just that he's really good and he's capable of doing that, and it will happen. So I think it's important to double up on and give Trent the support. You know, when you're picking a midfielder, to kind of drop in and support him. If the outlet is Hazard, we'll make sure that Trent's got cover in there as well.
I've not thought about Hazard on Trent, and that's a matchup that I think they'll be looking to exploit. You right there, Ross. And again, I suppose if that is the matchup, Trent's got to ask questions of Hazard going back. Because they're the questions that I'd imagine that every football fan is looking at Hazard saying, yeah, you know what, you do turn it on, and when you turn it on, you're absolutely unplayable, but are you in for the full fight? And I've seen enough to suggest in games against Liverpool that Hazard will track back. Hazard does want to fight for the shirt, especially against us. He must absolutely hate us, because he's brilliant against us.
The difference recently, you were talking about, you know, Salah and having Trent on the overlap, well, in recent games, Hendo's been in there as well. So, you know, targeting that right-hand side. There was nights against Porto where, you know, Salah had the ball. I think he lost it at one point, but then Henderson took it straight off him. And then Trent's behind him. So it's like, they haven't got just two people to look after. There's three at times when we decide to make the right run. So it's not just Hazard that's got to be defensive. It's like, you know, it's 3 or 4 of them. And there's people free on the other side. And the switch is always on for us. We drag people over to one side, and there's either Trent switching it or Robertson switching it.
The one thing that I remember from Chelsea, and that they're so good at it, especially with I spoke, they didn't have many options. You're right, Willian and Pedro, fantastic. It's that ball from David Luiz over the top diagonal to Willian, and that caught us out. Was that the first goal in the cup game, possibly, or it was one of the games anyway? And that's what they've got in the locker, and we've got to be so careful with that. It's that switch of play when everyone's tucked over, and you go, he's free over there, one-on-one, and that's where we've got to be careful, and I think that's where the midfield comes in, like we spoke about before. But are we going to sacrifice our game plan because I don't know how many times we've done that.
You do not sacrifice our game plan.
Exactly.
This is Anfield, that's where they're coming into, and we play the way that we play, and they have to change to try and combat us.
Yeah.
And listen, we're top of the table as it stands. You know, hopefully we'll still be top by the time the game starts. Palace obviously playing Manchester City at 2:05 on the Sunday. But we are above Chelsea for a reason. We're the better side this season. We need to go out there. We need to prove our dominance. We have to worry about Hazard. We have to worry about the other players that they've got. But they have to worry about us. And we've been superb. We've conceded less goals than them. We've scored more goals and we've garnered more points. And that's what it kind of comes down to. I think for me, the Chelsea away fans, and I've spoken to Chelsea fans this week about this, is there is a false confidence that comes from their last 3 wins. They beat Cardiff 2-1, they beat Brighton 3-0, and they beat West Ham 2-0.
And just beat Cardiff as well.
But before that, they lost to Everton and they drew to Wolves, didn't they? They are not happy with Sarri. And if you can get an early goal against them, their fans may well turn.
Oof, that'd be nice.
And I think it's brittle. And maybe 1 goal's not enough to do that. Maybe you do need 2 early goals. But I do feel like that we can make it a very hostile atmosphere by having a quick start against them in this game. So before we do, let's touch on one more thing. Rather than the preferred 11s, I want to ask you guys who you think Klopp will start in this instance. So, Tom, I'll come to you first on this one. Matip or Lovren?
Well, again, this is so hard. It depends who he thinks and how he thinks they're going to play. Do you go back to the trusted one with Matip? Because that was working so well. I really enjoyed that partnership. And then obviously you thrust Dejan Lovren back in and he looked really good, apart a few little positional mistakes where he had to get bailed out. It's weird. I said Lovren before, just before we recorded. I'm going back to Matip. I really feel like that partnership works so well. And if he is fit and he's fine to play, I think Klopp goes back with a trusted back line.
Before I ask you between the 2 players, do we all think Gini's going to come back into this side?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Hendo or Keita alongside them?
I've gone for Hendo.
What do you think Klopp will do?
I think he'll go for Hendo. I think, to be honest, I have not picked this, but you talked about it before, the Brexit midfield. I think there's an element that he might go for that because of the defensive cover that we talked about with the wingers. They're an industrious midfield that work hard and graft. And again, they know their roles when they allow Trent and Robbo to go forward, and others do as well. But they've proven, and he's shown in big games against the top 4 or 5 sides. That's what he's used.
So that midfield's Hendo, Milner.
Yeah. I think that's what he'll go for.
What about Milner being tired the other day from playing fullback? Do you reckon?
I don't know. Steve argued the point yesterday that he wasn't. He kind of took his foot off.
Klopp came out in the press conference and said we used Milner in a defensive role.
Yeah.
And we wanted to attack more down the right-hand side. Okay. So I'm not sure that it was tiredness per se, more than tactical.
Yeah, and I think with Milner as well, you could argue the case of the experience that he's got and level-headedness at this stage of the season, which I don't think you get from a Keita, obviously. You could chuck him in there and he'll calm people down or he'll make the right decisions. Yeah. He's not going to make a mistake, is he? Because he's just Mr. Reliable.
Okay. Right, before we get into the preferred 11s, we have a little look around the league at the rival fixtures. We have got an incredible clip from our Around the League show on the redmentv.com. Check this out.
Do you think it's down to the honesty of him that people have taken a bit more of a shine to him?
Definitely. He's proven people wrong, and that's one thing that turns heads. That's one thing that people like about other players. Literally, if you can name something he's done wrong since he's left Liverpool, I'd love to hear it. And he hasn't backed up because he backs up everything he says. So when he left the club, he said, I'm leaving to win trophies. Like Ross said before, he's won trophies. He's become a better player since he's left the club. He's done some great things. He's been in the media a lot. He's had a lot of pressure put on him because of how much he's in the media. But he's gone through it like a warrior. And if you look at him now, he's one of the world's best footballers. And I can't be angry at him. And I don't think Liverpool fans can be anymore because he's actually influencing the sport in a positive way, which is so important. And we've been screaming and crying out for more players like this, people who come out and defend on what's right. Do you know what I mean? But no, he's done everything right since he's left the club. I have nothing but respect for them.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that one. The redmentv.com, £5 a month. First month is free. If you sign up now, you will get all of the shows that we produce between now and 30 days' time. So you might just about get the end of the Premier League season. It is an absolutely perfect time to subscribe and show your support for what we do. If you enjoy it, please do give us a try. Preferred 11s time, then Ross Chanley. Yeah. First of all, who did you pick? Did you pick Matip or Lovren?
I've gone for Matip.
Okay.
Again, fresh legs. And to be honest, I didn't realise he had a knock until you told me before, but he's been consistent. And, you know, when Lovren's been out for a while, I just like, he's been brilliant alongside Van Dijk. I think you got the option of defensive qualities. He's shown he's aggressive now, which I didn't think he had in his locker. But then he got the other option of I just love his mazy runs that he tries to go on. And you talk about having the fullbacks going forward. Well, the centre half, it just decides to wander forward sometimes. But he does that because everyone else is occupied, and the option's there for him to go and do it. Sometimes he just goes to a dead end and he loses the ball, and it is dangerous. But other times, something's got to come off that at some point. So. I think he's got defensive and offensive qualities.
Who did you pick at left back? Did you pick Robbo or Moreno?
Do you know what? Don't. It was a real. Do you know what? It says a lot that Moreno wasn't picked in midweek. I never thought for a second that he would do. But we discussed before that game that Klopp just doesn't trust him. And to put Milner in there, again, Mr. Reliable, it says a lot. He's never going to play for Liverpool again, in my opinion.
Your midfield three, Tom, who did you go for?
Oh, me? Sorry. I thought you were just going to go back to him. Fabinho, Hendo, Gini, and basically Fabinho's the best six we have. Gini's fresh legs. He's going to come back in and be brilliant, cover on that left-hand side, and just be the reliable person on the ball that he is. Beat one man maybe and play it through. Jordan Henderson has to come back in, and I know there's talk for Keita coming in on his recent form. Fair enough, I get that. But Jordan Henderson, in a defensive sense, is another animal. You watch him, we're obviously doing the stat show on Jordan Henderson, and just some of the positioning and some of the awareness and the tenacity that he possesses is unrivaled. Genuinely unrivaled. The way that he can get up and down the pitch, assist on the right-hand side for Mo Salah, but also assist in covering Trent. You need that in this game, and he's captain. You know what I mean? I think he's gonna do us proud and keep showing people. Everyone's now turning a corner with Jordan Henderson. He's been doing this for ages, and I just want him to. It'll be a more reserved role. I genuinely think that he has to cover that right back so much, but I can't wait to see him get in there and just put himself about. Yeah,
I mean, I've gone for the 4-3-3 formation as well, and I went with Matip and Van Dijk, just like you, Ross. You talked about Lovren to begin with, but you ended up going with Matip in the end as well. I've gone for the same midfield three: Fabinho, Henderson, Gini. Gini fresh-legged, as you've mentioned. Henderson, for me, it's massively important that he plays in this game. We talked earlier on in the show about us exercising those demons from 13-14. Henderson wasn't available for that game. He will have felt terrible that he missed out on that one, and I think we might just get that extra few % from the captain, just because he'll have that in his mind and he'll know how important it is. Almost a year to the day, or 5 years to the day, apologies, since that game. He'll want to show that he can captain Liverpool to a Premier League title. He'll be in the centre of the park, putting pressure on their players, driving forwards, looking to get assists and stuff as well, linking up with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and then up top, I think all of us have gone for the front three and their normal positions. Rival fixtures then. We got Spurs versus Huddersfield at 12:30 on the Saturday. Man United, West Ham, 5:30 on the Saturday. Palace City, 2:05 on Sunday. Obviously Liverpool, Chelsea, 4:30. And Watford, Arsenal on the Monday night at 8 o'clock. Now, we've skirted over it because I wanted to talk about it at this point in the show, but the race for the top four is going to decide the race for the title, I believe, this season. Manchester City have still got games against Tottenham to play, and Chelsea, I think I'm right in saying as well. Is that right? Manchester United. Apologies, it's Manchester United. Chelsea currently, they've played a game more than Tottenham, Arsenal and Manchester United. They've played 33. They've got 66 points. Tottenham have played 32 and are 2 points behind with 64. Arsenal, 32 games, 63 points. And Manchester United, 32 games, 61 points. So Tottenham could go ahead of Chelsea for third place by the time our game rolls around. Arsenal obviously have to wait and see what happens with Liverpool and Chelsea to see if they can overtake them. Manchester United need a couple of teams to slip up, quite frankly. It's going to be tough. Liverpool have got a sensational home record that I mentioned before, lads. Chelsea's away record, on the other hand, played 16, won 9, drawn 1, lost 6.
Wow.
That's quite significant for a Chelsea side with as good players as they've got, isn't it? And I wonder if they've only garnered 28 points from their 16 away games so far. Liverpool have garnered 44 points from their 16 home games.
It's that goal difference as well, plus 36 for Liverpool, minus 1 for Chelsea. That shows just how shaky they can be at the back. I mean, you bank on all the other teams around Chelsea to win them games.
I think so.
Maybe Watford might do a job on Arsenal just because I really think Watford have something about them. I mean, if
they might have that little dip because they get to the...
they lost to Everton last week, didn't they?
Yeah, but Watford obviously got to the FA Cup final, didn't they? And sometimes teams go, because they just lose a little bit of focus and stuff because they've been out getting bladdered.
That Palace City, I'd be interested to know what you think about that. Obviously, Ben was talking about it the other day about having their games beforehand. They're going to put the pressure on us there. I mean, obviously, it's Palace away. It's not an easy game, but you'd bank on City going there and doing the business. And it's another opportunity, I think. We've had so many of these where we can show our resilience and strength. The other day when we're down and we come back to win that game 2-1, it's just, this has been a season of tests and Liverpool overcoming these. And I'd love to see us just go, right, we're down again. Let's just show City that we're not going away. And I believe if we win this game, I think we can start... Oh, look, the rest of the games are just as important and you can't let your mentality slip. But if we can get through this Chelsea team, I bank on Liverpool being professional and getting over the line.
Okay, well, there we go. One crumb of comfort, I think, maybe, Ross, is that Manchester City, when they lost last time, they lost a couple of games on the bounce. They obviously lost against Tottenham. They'll be feeling the pressure themselves. I am banking on them to bounce back. But Crystal Palace at their ground, on a day when there's no work, so a Sunday is normally a feisty frigging atmosphere, and it'll be a hard place for them to go to.
Yeah, Palace are a map one. I think you look around the side and they've got some quality players, and you wonder why they're so far behind. But
Hodgson.
Yeah, no, that's what I was coming to. Yeah. And you go, oh, who's the manager? Yeah, well, they beat them already this season at the Etihad to them. I don't really trust in Royce to do the double over them, but you know they certainly give them a game, and I think that's what it's all about for City now. They're playing a lot of football in a short space of time. They've literally got a game every 3 days. Tottenham will have taken out of them. Palace need to capitalise on that because I know they can talk about the squad depth and stuff, but like from what I've been told, the Spurs City game was like end-to-end stuff and you know pretty decent. So you know Palace need to take advantage of that. Palace aren't really fighting for anything's the problem. You know I think they're pretty much safe. They're not going for Europe or anything, so like, you know, what they were.
Are Liverpool top of this league come the end of the weekend? And by how many, if we are?
Yes, just because I think Palace channel that energy from last time they played them. And just like Townsend played so well. Absolutely incredibly.
A screamer of a goal.
Like, but defensively, like that goal was fantastic, but the way he covered and tracked back, if they can get an early goal and fight for it, I think Palace could stifle them there. I'm
going to disappoint you all and say that Liverpool will be top of the Premier League come the end of the weekend, but it will just be by the 2 points because Manchester City win as well. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the Redmen TV on YouTube, and we've got a new channel, it's Matron Pajak. Do go over there, check that one out. The link will be in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Ta-ra.